Hammer, is there a realistic scenario where Chris and Keegan Murray are the starting 3 and 4 next year?
Man, that's a tough one. Like, there's a possibility that Chris is on the roster, but I don't know that he's ready to be a starting 3 or a 4. That Chris, like Keegan, is one thing. Keegan was a number 4 pick in the draft. We're talking about Chris at anywhere between like 16 and 25, and so that's just a different level of player. While they're identical, they aren't identical as far as the way they play. Very, very different as far as the way they play. Chris is a true left-hander. He shoots left-handed, where Keegan, they're both left-handed, but Keegan shoots with his right, so it's a little bit different. They're both like interesting players, but I think they are, like, to their core, they're still too similar. So while their games aren't the same, their bodies are. And as far as athleticism and like, you guys love it when I say swivel in the hips, all that
Swivel in the
stuff.
hips. Yeah.
Yeah, like, we're talking about like their wingspan, their height, their weight, again, their max vert, they're almost identical. So, like, I don't know that you want to have two of the same exact players on the court. I don't think that the Kings would shy away from it. If he's sitting there at 24 and they think he's the best player, like, why not? They know he's a good kid. They know that he's not going to have problems. They know that it would provide like a support person for Keegan. But at the same time, Keegan has never really said, "Yeah, I want my brother on my team." And he's actually been kind of the opposite. Like, he's ready to carve out his own niche as Keegan Murray, not as part of the Murray twins. And so, like, there could come a point where, they cross paths again in the league, but I'm not sure that it's going to be this year one. It is possible, but I also say, like, Sasha Vazenkov, if you're looking at him as one of the 3 forwards and you were to draft Chris Murray, I still think Sasha's further along as far as a player, and he would probably get a nod before a rookie coming in.
Ham said Chris Murray like 15 to 24, 25, 26, whatever. I feel like that's every player we're talking about with the Kings. Trista asked me over the weekend, "Hey, what do you think about Jordan Hawkins, kid from UConn?" I was like, "Well, I don't. Isn't he going like 12th or 13th or something like that?" She was like, "Yeah, but I saw him as low as 25th." I'm like, "Wait, what?" And like, as we've looked, we were this was from our exercise last week where we were looking at how many people had Chris Murray at 24, and then looking how similar the players were from 20 to like 28. And you could really string it out and get to 16, 17, 18 to 27, 28, 29, and you see the same players in completely 15, 27, which I don't get.
Well, look, and this is because you got the people, Kings get to the playoffs, and we're all excited. We get hyped. They be like, "Oh, yeah, you guys don't know, but you ain't never been here. You never been here. All this other stuff." I scoff at that, but I go to hell or whatever the case may be. But James, I don't think we've ever been here. Like, usually for our mock drafts, for our interest, pretty cut and dry. You got about 5, 6 guys that you're looking at, and it's pretty cut and dry. That top 7 of the lottery is where we usually are. Is this pretty common practice to have so many mock drafts this late in the first round be kind of all over the place?
I think it's a little strange. I told you guys last week, I think from like 15 to 40 that this is pretty wide open. And very specifically from 25 to 40 or 20 to 40, it's wide open. There's so many different players that could go, and you just have no idea. Like, someone brings up Bilal Koulibaly, right? And he's got all kinds of potential. He's a French prospect that plays with Victor Wembanyama. And like, yeah, he's got a ton of potential, but all of a sudden we started hearing late last week that he's already had a top 14 guarantee. So anytime you get a guy with a top 14 guarantee, that means that someone that was in the top 14 is falling to you, or that guy's really not going to go in the top 14. And we're just hearing that. So yeah, I really think it's an interesting draft because it's pretty deep and it's got a lot of talent, but once we get to a certain point, all of the talent kind of, mixes together and you're really not sure. And like, I know today, Imani Bates came through Sacramento for a workout. So I know, Kenny, you'll be excited about that.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Let's see
Yeah.
what the young fella got, man. Let's talk to him, man. Does Monty need me to go talk to him? Do I need to
Yeah.
interview him too?
No one needs that.
Do I need to interview him? I mean, I
Yeah.
can call Monty
We
now
don't-
because I can hear him now.
We don't need you to go ask Monty if the seats are going to change when they change the court.
Yeah. Our friend Matt George had that first. He put it out there, and I was able to confirm that a little while ago. And Imani Bates is a really good sort of jumping off point for a conversation about how this draft is so wide open. Like, he could go 24 to the Kings. He also could be there at 54 when the Kings draft. And that's partially because of his off the court stuff. It's partially because he didn't produce that well. Then he's bounced around. Then, things have gone a little sideways for him. But it's also because there are players in this draft that you might think that are more of a sure bet than he is, and that you don't want to risk, a decent draft pick on a player that you think you could get later in the draft, or you think could go undrafted, or could go in the first round. And that's sort of the interesting part about Imani Bates. And I have no idea where he's going to go, but I'm certainly, he's a guy that did not test extremely well at the combine. We talked about this last week. I mean, his standing vert was 27 inches. Max vert was a little over 30. Just not one of the big time leapers or super athletes of this draft. But there are a lot of guys in his range that do some of what you want to do. So, if you're looking for 3-and-D guys, he's not really your guy. If you're looking at him, you're looking at a guy that has potential to be really, really, really good, or that could be out of the league really quickly. And as opposed to, there are safer bets that you think that even if they aren't great, you can still work with them and have them be like a back of the rotation or back of the bench, 3-and-D type player.
I hope he takes a swing on one of these picks. I don't really want 3. I don't want to call them safe because these guys can be in the league and produce or whatever. But you got 3 picks in this draft, man. You're already picking late in the first round.
Has Monty taken a swing at all?
I don't think so.
Jemias Ramsey.
At least the type of swing.
Ramsey was a swing. That was a swing for Francis.
And what'd that turn into?
That wasn't even a foul tip. That one hit the catcher's glove. That's what that did.
Take another swing. He should have took the swing last year with Jaden Hardy. We probably wouldn't even be having this conversation.
We
have to score. So,
well, he did. To his credit, he drafted him.
So if he takes 2 quote unquote safe picks and then one guy like an Imani Bates, it doesn't have to be. It could be wherever. I don't care where it is. But I want one guy where it's hey, his ceiling is crazy if he figures it all out. I want one of those guys like that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you too. Normally, every other year, I've watched him, Monty, move off of his second round picks pretty quickly. We saw it again with the Jaden Hardy pick. We saw it with the 49th pick they traded for Sasha Vezenkov. We've seen him move his second round picks pretty consistently. Even the year before, I can't remember who it was drafted, but another player that actually made it. And when we talk about Woodard and Ramsey, they traded, one of those was Xavier Tillman that they traded down. They swapped out and drafted Woodard afterwards. So he's been very active, but I bring this up because this is the first year where there's going to be 3 two-way contracts. And so for me, second round picks all of a sudden took a big jump as far as value, a tremendous jump as far as value, because you're looking at probably Keon Ellis getting a two-way, but I'm going to just my guess is that Neemias Queta will be on the standard roster this next season. Maybe I'm wrong there, but I'm pretty sure that he's done enough to earn his way up. And so if you have Keon Ellis on a two-way, that means you have 2 more two-ways to sign. And you might be able to get a guy like an undrafted free agent. You might be able to get a guy in the regular standard G League pool that has talent and you want to sign up for a two-way. But you could also use, at least the 38 pick and come away thinking that you probably got a player that you can develop with a two-way. And then you just keep their rights. And so I think it's cool because that means that the standard roster is going up to 18 players this year, which is all new. And you'll have the ability to move those players back and forth. And so I wouldn't doubt that the Kings look at a center like Jackson Davis. I wouldn't doubt that they look at a big point guard that can play defense and, has some length. So I think that there's some options here that they could chase. So they're developing, and maybe you don't need to keep a third point guard on your roster this year because you've got one stashed in as a two-way player where you haven't in the past.